Just kiss you and a kiss, babe.
Just when you thought the love triangles were over, the producer said, "Hold my beer," because now they've decided to make Nicole and Samantha cry, because I can foresee tears. I can foresee tears, especially given Samantha's reaction when Joey was kissing the girls. And Joey, his celebration after the kisses is not helping. But anyway, I digress. Hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's your girl Valerie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love Island, Season 11, Episode 11. I don't know how I feel. I feel some type of way. The fact that the producers are allowing bullying to take place in the villa and they're not doing anything about it doesn't make sense to me. I think Jess and Uma need to be called out for some of their behaviors, and I'm sad that the producers continue, especially Jess. I hate the way she speaks to Harriet. It's very patronizing and very belittling, because the girls, after the coupling, go and sit down and they're sort of discussing, and Jess is still going on, "Oh, I've picked Sean because I want to do, to try something different and give him time to see if there's anything there with Harriet, if there's nothing." This is the same conversation she's had with the girls everywhere she sits. And then she asks Harriet, "Are you happy?" And Harriet is like, "Yeah, you made the choice for me." That's it though. She made the choice by picking Sean because Sean was coupled up with Harriet, meant that Harriet had to pick somebody else. And the only other person she had a connection with was Ronnie, and she picked Ronnie. And so for Jessie to be trying to sort of make it feel like Harriet is inserting herself in a place where she doesn't belong doesn't make sense. For her to make it feel like Harriet is not understanding and is not considerate or is not loyal to her. And it's like, why should people refuse a connection just because you want it? Why are you so entitled that you feel that Harriet's needs should be on the back burner because you want Ronnie, so you have to have him? Ronnie is a man with his own choices and his own views and his own ideas, and has the capacity to sort of make a decision of who he wants. Him not responding to your ultimatum should have been a response on its own. It's him telling you, "No, I'm not for you. I don't want you." That's it. Even when he was sitting with the guys and he was being asked sort of, "How do you feel about Jess not picking you?" And he went, "I thought she was going to pick me, but hey, it is what it is. Now I'll just focus on the person I'm in a couple with." He was asked by Kieran, "Are you going to pull her for a chat?" He said, "Nah, she has to pull me because I want to focus on my current coupling." Everyone was trying to find out, are you going to make out in bed? And he was sort of all over, it depends on what Harriet wants to do. And then you have Harriet sort of confiding in Joey, because Joey somehow seems to be her therapist in the villa, and sort of discussing about the fact that, yeah, she's not happy with how things have played out, but at the end of the day, she wants to explore this connection with Ronnie and see if it's genuinely there. They discussed, is there sexual tension? Is there this? And Joey was saying, "I see more of a sexual tension with you than I do with Jess." And I've said this before, that Jess is just a connection of convenience. Jess is just a connection that will get him to stay in the villa. And this is why he was able to manipulate her into saving him when Johnny came in. So I think this is why Jess feels like she owns him, because he saved her. She saved him, forgetting that he also coupled up with her. He chose her. Yes, his speech wasn't amazing. It should have been a heads up for her to tell her that he's not into me romantically, but she's not seeing things that way. Joey is going to be messy. The fact that he sort of spoke to Harriet and Ronnie and was asking, "So are the two of you going to make out in bed? What are you going to do? Blah, blah." And it's like, why are you doing this? And I love the fact that Ronnie was like, "It depends on Harriet. Whatever she wants to do, I'm game." And for just after complaining to everyone to then pull Ronnie for a chat doesn't make sense. And I think she expected him to kick off and say, "Why didn't you couple up with me? And he just gave in. I think Ronnie and Ayo are playing from the same playbook. They've decided that we're not going to let these girls play us. So they are going to stick to the ones that show them interest and leave the ones that want to be followed alone. Because this is the same thing that Ayo did to Uma when she was throwing a tantrum and saying, "I'm removing myself." And for Jess to brag, "Oh, she's not going to be as good in bed as I am." Well, why does that matter? Why does that matter who's good or who's bad? At the end of the day, he is the one who can grade the two of you. You can't grade yourself because she's not performing in bed with you. So how do you know whether she's not as good as you? I didn't get that, and I didn't like that. And so for Jess to then sit down with Joey and sort of have a conversation with Harriet and be belittling. I like the fact that when she tried to get the other girls to gang up on Harriet, Joey said no. This is between you and Harriet. The two of you have to deal with it. And the fact that she kept sort of over talking and sort of trying to stop Harriet from talking doesn't make sense. You're not one of my friends in here, so you don't owe me any loyalty. Oh God, that word. Doesn't make sense to me. It's like, why should somebody owe you? This is why Uma didn't go for Joey, because she was afraid of Samantha. At the end of the day, people have to be selfish and go for what they want. If he doesn't want you back, then keep it moving and wait for a bombshell to come in and take it from there. I don't get it. Anyway. I like the fact that while this was going on, you had the other girls in the kitchen just watching and just, poor Mimi was just munching on her pizzas as though she was just watching, some sort of movie. She wasn't involved in it. She didn't want anything to do with it. The boys were sitting in the other end. They were just watching and thinking, what the hell? I think seeing how Mimi has behaved in this situation, I think has given a lot of guys a lot of pause for concern, and it has really proved their initial impressions of the girls that, at the end of the day, Mimi is girlfriend material. The way she carries herself, the way she's avoids unnecessary drama, I think is what a lot of guys have found very attractive and very endearing, and this is why they're now Team Mimi. Anyway, the Islanders get ready for bed, and it seems everybody's curious as to find out what's going to happen in Harriet and Ronnie's bed, because you even had Mimi asking, Harriet, so are you going to give him a cuddle in bed? And Harriet was laughing, and it's like, oh my God, I can't wait for this drama. Bedtime in the villa seems to be one of the most interesting things to observe, because you get to see how people truly feel about their partners. Though some turn over to their sides and that's it. You have the likes of Kieran and Nicole. They're very comfortable, so they are like the old married couple. Even though Ayo said there was no kissing, he and Mimi were spooning, and at one point were face to face, right it up in each other's faces, and it's like, make it make sense. Do you like this girl or don't you? I think, this is my thought, I think Ayo likes Mimi. I think Ayo knows Mimi is the type of girl he should be dating, and I think he's worried that, yes, this is unpopular opinion, I think he's worried that if he goes all in with her and suddenly his head turns, she might be left heartbroken. But at the same time, he's not wanting to sort of break up with her. So I don't get where he stands. Does he really like her and want to pursue things with her? Or does he still question whether he's still going to get his head turned by the next shiny object? With Ronnie, for me, I don't think really likes Jess. This is what I'm going to say. I think Ronnie was waiting for Jess to move on, because the moment he hits the bed with Harriet, the kissing was so loud that everyone woke up. Jess at one point stormed out. I don't know whether she felt by doing that, maybe then she would get Harriet and Ronnie to stop, but they didn't stop. In the morning, everybody was talking about this kissing. And when the guys were left, you had the guys asking who was kissing, and people were pointing directions. Kieran sort of pointed towards Ronnie's direction, and Ronnie pointed toward his own direction, meaning that he and Harriet were making out. And it's like, seriously, it's the audacity for me. And then you have Jess complaining in the makeup room that, oh, he's very disrespectful. And it's like, he wasn't your boyfriend. That should be enough information for you to know that this guy is not feeling you that way. Yes, he might like how you look, you might be a security blanket, but at the end of the day, he actually feels Harriet more, and you were asking him to tell you who he feels more. Well, he's told you. What else do you want? The Islanders then go for breakfast, and it's cute to see that Sean is still applying a lot of pressure and Jess is still sort of standoffish, and it's like, are you now obsessed with Ronnie? Make it make sense. You are now joining the Samantha League whereby you're obsessed with your partner and nothing else will turn your head, because it doesn't make sense what else you want Ronnie to say or do, because you called him by the fire pit. He was nonchalant about it. He didn't seem bothered by the fact that, you were still upset, and your speech, he didn't say anything. He went into bed, he made out with somebody else. So why keep talking about him? Why not move on and try things out with Sean? I don't get it. Anyway, you have Ayo, I didn't get quite what he said. He said he can talk about anything with Mimi, which means he's very comfortable around Mimi. He likes Mimi. He can actually see himself progressing with Mimi. But at the same time, he's talking about, oh, if my type. As I said before, I think he's worried that his head is going to turn, so he doesn't want to lock himself in with Mimi, and yet he knows that he really likes Mimi, and so it's going to be sad if a bombshell walks in, a guy, and they pursue Mimi, and Mimi's head is turned because he's going to realize what he's lost. Because Mimi's an amazing girl, even the guys in the villa say she's amazing, so I don't see what he doesn't get. With Kieran, I see tears coming, especially with the bombshells. I see tears coming for poor Nicole. Because Nicole is talking about, oh, I am not interested in anybody else. You have changed my mind. You're reassuring me every day. And it's like, yeah, but just be careful because you are not yet married and it's not yet towards the end of Love Island. You're still at the very beginning. So the producers could bring in anyone. Samantha is happy that she's on cloud nine. I don't get that. Joey, I don't think is feeling her like that. We'll see what happens. The villa is about to get interesting because I can't wait for Samantha to lose her rag. It's going to be entertainment gold. So you have, three bombshells walk in. Tiffany's 25, Will is 23, and Grace is 25. Grace has a history with Joey. Apparently they dated on holiday, and then she says it was a holiday romance, but they also kept seeing each other when they got back home. So that's not really a holiday romance, unless that's just me. You can see Joey's excited because he ran to look when everybody else stood up to greet the bombshells. He ran to Sean to sort of confide in Sean. He told Ayo. Ayo was on the floor. Ayo was excited for this. And so it's interesting because you could tell from the first look, you can tell Samantha knew that something was off because of the way Joey was behaving. And so by the time she found out that they had previously dated, you could see her start to sulk because Uma was interested in Joey and she was able to sort of fend off Uma. And I don't know whether she'll be able to fend off Grace just because there's already a history with Joey. I was surprised with Kieran though, because they all sat at the fire pit and they were asking who's closed off, and Kieran kept quiet. And you had Nicole say, Kieran, yeah, can you speak up for us? And Kieran immediately took it and swung it over to Ronnie. And it's like, but you were telling this girl in bed that you're closed off. What's happened? Have you changed your mind? Let her know as soon as possible. I was actually surprised that Grace's first two people that she pulled were Kieran and Sean. That didn't make sense to me. I don't know whether it's because she's already watched Kieran tell Nicole that, they're closed off, so she doesn't want to be involved in that mess. And their conversation was just cordial. It was just cordial. There was nothing really there. I think Kieran is attracted to Grace and he doesn't know how to say or to come across, because he was asked, how's your connection going? And he was stuttering all over the place. So this coming week is going to be Kieran's head turning, and he's just said he's closed off. So that's going to be entertainment gold. I actually liked her conversation better with Oma. I think Oma and Grace really had a great conversation. And while the boys were sitting and talking, you had Joey offer Samantha on a silver platter to Will to say, if you want to chat to her, you can chat to her as many times as you want. I am open. I am an honest person. I'm a man of my word. So do you. And it's like he's trying to get Samantha off his hands so that he can turn to Grace without feeling guilty. And so I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that mess because, Samantha is about to cry. Am I the only one who foresees tears for Samantha and Nicole, because the producers are not going to allow them to sail through the whole sort of 8 weeks of Love Island with no drama? That's never going to happen. The fact that you had Nicole sort of having this conversation with Kieran, and they're sort of, I think it came across as though Kieran was trying to convince Nicole to say, no, we're not actually fully closed off, even though he was the first one to bring up the closed off situation. She didn't want to use the word closed off. She was sort of saying my head is unlikely to turn, because she's already said this to Will, that it's unlikely that my head is going to turn for anyone, because Will pulled her with Harriet and tried to have a conversation to see where they stood. Harriet said, I've just coupled up with Ronnie, I've been in love triangles. And she was sort of implying that she's closed off, but didn't want to bring out the words that I'm closed off. And so when she had a conversation with Kieran was sort of trying to and I think he was trying to get her to backtrack, and she wouldn't backtrack. So eventually they ended up at we are closed, and I don't know how long that will last, especially if Grace puts pressure on Kieran, because Kieran seems really attracted to her. Samantha is sulking because Grace is in the villa. She feels like Joey's head is going to be turned because they've got a history. Joey was trying to convince her that it's unlikely. Yes, they have a history, but that doesn't mean that connection is stronger. I think that connection might actually be stronger, even though Grace is avoiding Joey. I think because Samantha's coming across as an obsessed fan, so this might be off-putting for Joey, and I don't know how much longer he can continue to sort of try and humor Samantha before he gets fed up. The islanders get ready for the night. You have, the boys were trying to suss out Will to see where he stands, but at the end of the day, there are more girls than there are boys. So even if there's a dumping, it's a girl that's going to be dumped, so they don't need to worry about who's being dumped unless it's their girl. And so Joey did the toast, and that was cute. That was cute. He was welcoming to everyone, and they went off in pairs to have a conversation. Am I the only one who's noticed that Sean comes across as a people pleaser? In the sense that he was speaking to Tiffany, and they were discussing sweets because he sells sweets, and she started saying she likes fizzy sweets, and she asked him, what's your favorite? And he went for the same. And it's like, you don't need to mimic someone in order for them to like you. Just be yourself and be original, and people are going to love you, because every time you keep trying to sort of contort yourself to fit the person you're trying to date, this is why the girls are not interested in him, because he keeps trying to sort of transform himself into what he thinks the girls might like, instead of just being himself and letting the girls see him for who he is and like him for who he is, or don't like him. That's it. Joey had a conversation with Grace. He was giddy. But then I think Joey is just giddy with any girl, because he said he's only open to getting to know Grace, Tiffany, and Sam. And his conversations with Sam are not as giddy as his conversations with Tiffany. Neither are they the same as with Grace. With Grace, I think he's going to try and do something. I think he's going to try and pursue something unless Grace shuts him down. With Tiffany, he was very giddy. Every time he looked at her, he was very giggly and stuff. And it's like, Samantha's about to cry, and you have Samantha sitting on the daybeds groaning and moaning, every girl that's going to come in here will want Joey, blah blah. That's because every girl wants security. They know that if they stay with Joey, Joey comes with an inbuilt fan base, so whatever he does, his fans are going to vote for him. So this is why they want him, not necessarily because they like him romantically. So please sit down. You haven't done or said anything that shows to us that you're interested in him romantically. You should come across more as an obsessed fan. You have Uma having a conversation with Will. She's talking about the fact that, well, he's a year younger than her. And she's saying, I was in the triangle with Ayo and I've moved on from that. I'm now with Oma. So I'm hoping that that's, I'm getting to know him, but I'm also open to getting to know you. This is what I think. I think Uma is one of those girls who like to date a guy who they can manipulate in or get to do whatever they want. And it seems with Ayo, initially when he first saw her, he was sort of trying to really impress her. And the moment he stopped doing that, she then decided to check out. And sadly, Oma is not one of those people that will sort of contort themselves to suit whatever you want. And I think this is why she's decided to sort of turn to Will, because Will seems really keen. So I think if Will applies the pressure and shows any interest in her, then her head is going to turn towards Will and see if she can manipulate that to her need. I think Will is more her type than Ayo. I think she was just with Ayo because she felt like, people are likely to keep her in the villa with him. But now that Will has come in, I think she's going to have her head turned in and focus more on Will. So the islanders get to play beer pong, and the results are interesting because some of them copped out, some were oh my god, X-rated. So Grace had to twerk on someone and she chose Sean. Poor Sean didn't know what hit him because he was so shocked. I think the girls go for Sean because they know that he's not in a couple, so they're not going to offend anyone. And also they consider him harmless. That's the impression that I get. Oma was asked to kiss the player and she chose Ronnie. And then she went and she hugged Jess, and it's like, that's very immature of you. Very immature of the two of you to do that. It's not necessary. It's either you play the game honestly. If you have a problem with him, speak to him. You don't need to wait for a game in order to call him out. If you don't like the way he treated your friend, that's fine. Have a conversation with him, but don't be silly and petty. That I didn't like. You had Samantha who asked who's playing games, and she went and she kissed Ronnie, and she said she kissed him just because she wanted to. I think some of the girls were doing it just to spite Harriet. That's the way it's coming across. Will was asked to kiss 3 girls: Woody, Shag, Mary, and Woody Ghost. So he chose to shag Nicole, and then he chose to marry Uma, and it's like, Uma, she comes across as though she has a couple of toxic traits. She comes across as those dramatic girls. So because you are the company you keep, and she's very close friends with Jess, and so I see trouble. He decided to go to Samantha. I think that made sense. You had who was it? Who was it? Somebody was asked to have a three. Kieran. He was asked for a three. Who do you want in a threesome? And he chose Nicole and he chose Jess. I think because Jess is close friends with Nicole and he didn't want to. He actually said to Omar that I didn't want to get into trouble. Otherwise, if I had my way, I would have kissed Grace. And I said this before that he really likes Grace. You had Tiffany pick Ronnie for who she would want to have a shower with. Ronnie was very lucky. He had an amazing day at the office. Harriet was then asked, who would you see as untrustworthy? She chose Jess, and it makes sense. Jess has been moving shady in the villa. That does make sense. Joey was asked, who do you want in a three-way kiss? And he decided to kiss Tiffany and Grace. And it's like, oh my God. Samantha was fuming. You could see smoke coming out of her ears. And then Grace was then asked, who would you want to kiss? And she kissed Joey. And you could see Joey's excitement, the way he was bouncing up and down. And it's like, oh, this is going to end in tears. And I think the sleepover next week is just going to break Samantha, because Samantha has managed to intimidate most of the girls to stay away from Joey, and sadly she can't do that to Grace. I wonder if Grace is going to pick Joey though, but I don't think she would want to go away with a stranger. I have a feeling she's going to pick Joey, and this is really going to drive Samantha up the wall. I really enjoyed this episode. I had a great time. I can't wait to see what happens on Sunday. Thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe, and click the link in my video to watch my review from episode 10. Bye guys.